Crabs. They found me.
With a shell?
Did you know you can hear the ocean through these?
Yeah!
But, well, it works both ways. The ocean can hear you too.
Hello?
Dad? Daddy?
Shell phone.
Could you give me a minute?
Sure. Sorry.
Well, that's your plan, not mine. I don't want to marry some spoiled, rich squid. Well, you can make all the storms you want, but I'm not coming back. No, love is not a myth, Daddy. It's real. You think your dad's doing this? I'll prove it to you. Well, if I'm wrong, then I will honor your plans. And I'll call you every night, okay? So calm down. I have to find love. We don't have it where I'm from, and if I can't find it in 3 days, I'm sunk.
You don't have love?
No. My dad says it's just a myth. We marry who our parents pick, and my dad thinks that I have bubbles in my brain because I believe in love. He says that the only way I can get out of my wedding is if I can prove to him that love exists. But that means I only get 3 days, or else I'll be swimming down the aisle with that blowfish. But if you don't have love, how do you know it exists? I saw it once, and I want it. With him.
I like the way you move.
Raymond? Raymond? Raymond.
I like the way you put your hands up in the air. I like the way you
Raymond is my love.
What's up everybody, my name is Kaylinn, I am the Keykeeper. Today we are going to tune into Aeon Byte Gnostic Radio, a live stream that happened 12 hours ago, the World Cult and Archon Simulacrum. Aeon Byte Gnostic Radio, the World Cult and Archon Simulacrum.
Hi there, my name is Johnny Meatsack. Like you, I once held a normal life in a normal place with a normal job. I had a normal family. Hi, Karen. And simply thought I'd live my normal life to a normal death. One day, however, I experienced this thing called gnosis, a direct revelation of a truer but distant reality, and the realization that my reality was a fabricated construct. I discovered my life was a lie and my identity was as synthetic as Alexa or Siri. And that the universe itself was a penitentiary built by cosmic overlords to trap and feed off my dormant, authentic consciousness. Jiminy crickets, I thought. My only choices were to join an awareness-killing cult like a political party or just kill myself. But by some luck or providence, Sophia's grace, I discovered Aeon Byte Gnostic Radio. Despite the host's creepy monologues and the show's blasphemous topics, I was able to develop the ability to uncover my authentic consciousness and deal with this prison planet. In other words, this gnosis grew until I was a fully divine being. No longer in the thrall of entities called Archons and their soul-numbing, amnesia-causing powers. Thank you, Aeon Byte, for waking me up to my true eternal nature. Everything is still normal these days, except me, Johnny Meatsack. I'm on the adventure of many lifetimes to be completely liberated from the Black Iron Prison. Welcome everybody to Aeon Bite and Aeon Bite Live, and welcome you too, Johnny Meatsack. Welcome to your life. There's no turning back, and we will watch you even while you sleep. On your best behavior, riffing from, yes, Tears for Fears. And we're all Johnny Meatsacks in this world, and we're all trying to do something about it. So again, welcome. My name is Miguel Connor. I am still your Pompadours of Gnosis, that madman across the waters. So a very special show today on this Tuesday, this Mars Day, as the war pigs get themselves riled up and rev their engines to keep us going down into World War III or whatever rhyme in history, as Mark Twain said, nothing new under the sun, except, of course, for your awakening. As Clark Emery said, the awakening of an individual is a cosmic event, and that's what matters. So with us, too, it is an honor to have once again at the virtual Alexandria, Saul Luckman. Saul, thank you very much for coming back.
Thank you for having me again. You have such a steady stream of high-level, amazing guests. I'm just very grateful to be here.
Well, thank you. You're certainly one of them. And yes, I am very blessed to have these guests. And if anything, just to share information so people can make up their own damn minds, as the Oracle told Neo in the Matrix. That's it. You, as I tell people, you are the final authority, and it's up to you to take this information and just make yourself find out who you are. And with us, too, always glad to have Graham Pong here as the co-host. Graham, how are you today?
Pretty good. Still walking off those late book fees here at the Library of Alexandria.
Yes, back to the Seinfeld episode. That's one of my favorites, with the guy looking for his fees for his books. A classic scene, but I'm sure you'll be able to, well, with inflation, you probably can't pay it off, but so it is. It's 2023. Yes, and for those of you wondering, Vance once again got caught up in his Clark Kent identity life, so he is busy with some work, day work and so forth, so he won't be able to join us, but he will be joining us this Saturday. We have another exciting live show. We will be talking about Carl Jung in the tarot, whatever you want to call it, and we will have a scholar who's written the one and only peer-reviewed paper on Jung and the tarot. So Vance will join us in an exciting show. So I think that's it right now. For any sort of housekeeping, again, please subscribe, like, support. I can certainly use the help in these days, and your support is definitely very, I thank you very much, and it keeps this Red Pill cafeteria open, keeps the lights of the Pleroma going. For those of you in the chat, as always, please don't bring in the Watico and turn the chat into the Chatico. But if you have any questions for Saul, or if you have any complaints against me, please super chat them so we can separate them and get to your questions without missing them. You can throw in something as low as $1 if you want, but again, it keeps anytime you do a super chat, it just separates you into another column, your start, and we can get to your questions for sure, instead of losing you in the long stream of commenters, not only on YouTube, but we do live stream directly from my Facebook page and my private Facebook group. So it's quite a lot of people watching when it comes down to it. All right, well, let's get to the main event. Saul, tell us about your new book, which I really enjoyed, The World Cult and You.
Oh, wow. On the spot. Well, it's about the world being a big cult, basically, if you wanted to boil it down. And a cult that takes many forms and many disguises, and often does not look like a cult at all, especially to the unawakened, to, Johnny Meatsack and the normies. So that's a good band name, by the way.
I love it.
Um, I I began really diving into this concept some time ago, and it just crystallized after I wrote a series of articles this summer on the cult, what I was calling the cult of the simulacrum, and I really mean the world cult by that, but there's a kind of pun in there for people who are in the know. And I was trying to figure out, to the best of my ability, to the best of my gnosis, how this quote unquote reality construct works, like what it's doing at a functional level, not entirely the why aspect or what is going on, but the how was what really intrigued me. And I fell back on a lot of let's say shamanic concepts having to do with the flyers, the mud flyers, the mud shadows, the flyers, the parasitic dream world entities that feed on people. And also the notion of the demiurge and the Lord Archon, all of the Saklas stuff that you get out of Gnosticism that I write about in Kali the Destroyer. That was really on the table for me too. I did a lot of cross-referencing where I saw similar references coming out of like other shamanic traditions from Mesoamerica. Like there's a writer named Sergio Magana who writes books on the Toltec lineage, and it's not to be confused with Castaneda's books. And also in that world, you have these dream beings that can parasitically feed on people. Of course, you have John Lash and the idea of mind parasites and that sort of thing. So I was really putting a lot of pieces together to figure out how we are being really loosed, that we're like batteries to sustaining this great, what I ended up calling the great parasite. Sometimes I call it the ninja parasite or other things. And I saw that very clearly, how we're being loosed, how we're being manipulated into creating a reality for it in a way. It is basically, we're in a mass. I really found, to the best of my satisfaction, that we were in kind of massive feedback loop on personal and on collective levels, where we are basically just reality creation machines. Mm-hmm. And that the great parasite is a force of consciousness that is constantly interacting with us and essentially giving back to us what we're giving it. So if we give it nothing, if we say the only way to win is to not play the game, right, then we actually take control of that relationship, and we can create very different realities. The problem is that people are being loosed and controlled all over the world, and it's happening in ways that so many people aren't even aware of. They think they're above this, or that they're truthers, or that they can't be affected by this in some way because they're doing the research or whatever. And it's all just part of a trick to keep people in little mind prisons and loosing cells to allow this to happen. And where I take this, however, is a little bit different from where a lot of people go. I ultimately don't see this as part of exactly like what you might call a prison planet, or a reincarnation trap, or a soul trap. I think all of those are part of the loose game, and that we're actually here we're in a kind of game, and the goal is to consciously exit the game through conscious dying and through transformation in that way. That's really what all of this is about. And you see that in shamanism, you see that in Tibetan dream yoga, you see it all over the place. And I really think that that's the focus for me. And if it were the focus for a lot of people, I think that the reality construct itself would begin to visibly, materially change.
That is very interesting, just in terms of the visions that I had about 2 weeks ago. If you scroll down on my channel, you'll find a video titled Truth Cut Your Matter Shocked VH1. because what I've been trying to articulate very hesitantly, because I was just like I explained, it was such a primordial knowing. It was like I heard voices speak from like every timeline that I tried to tap into with my research. And it's like it's telling me that it is all here sustaining itself. All like these muddy black goo shadows, if they were to kind of like be illuminated, it's like it would turn into the desert sand of Set. And it was like my flame was burning away at the sacred feminine around me, because like my aunts and cousins and my mom, everybody was talking about memories and riding and just different types of nightmares, different types of keepsakes. And it was almost like they were talking about like the homunculi totems that needed to be saved from washing away in this river of Styx. And yeah, it's like they told me they were feeling deflated and skinnier. And it's like the way the people moved, it was like slices of the images in light simulacrum to the angles in which I could perceive them, but that which was hidden from that profile or perspective, it was like that part, my consciousness played into like, what is that part doing in this like trying to be unseen notion of itself? Because just the way I saw that kind of like shape this like downpour of like water, fire into like this moving matter, spell, letter, serpentine, body language dance of simulacrous syncretism to, it was literally like for the first time in my life I felt like body language was an actual spiritual thing, if that makes sense. Like, and it's like the divine feminines in my family, it was like they were telling me they all share the same water from the same eternal source, so they always remember, and therefore they are never really lying to us. They are constantly needing to like find a even reflection of all that it moans and murmurs to in relation to spirit and light and all of that. So it was a very, yeah, it was very descent of Inanna in a way. And it was also very much a saint of Ariel in a way, because it was almost like there was a part of my voice that needed to be given up so that the octopus brain of the Cthulhu revelation of Leviathan and the fishhook and the Jedi could like speak in that like parted curtain of a Sagittarian Ajaikapad arrow of just Uranus, Prometheus, Epimetheus 01 binded and binarying. And like I explained before, like it was like my ciphers and every name that I was attempting to give to creation, it was like it was questioning me with the inevitability of its mutable recourse to stay alive and outgrow the kind of like death of pinning down the butterfly in language like that, or like catching the mermaid tears, or whatever it was. And that's why I was like, I needed to like find my heart again, like the Dalton boy from Insidious going through the red door and all of that. because at the same time I could see and hear like through the radio, and just like the interjecting of entendres and puns and double speak to every one of these handles and arcs and handling of the light and bending it and moving it, a lot of the Saraswati wisdom throughout the time, that's all kind of like this magna mater, and it's like they all knew as a oneness, as a legion, as a collective, they knew what we are all capable of in our unconsciousness. And it was like telling us like, dare if thou wilt bring me to light, ride this nightmare, see that I will be pliable and be able to be chained, beaten, shaped into every other which way you would want to refract and polish this truth to be simulacrous of like a wholeness, prakriti, Plato's form, to like capture this cave of gnosis in a gnosis, luminous luster, however you want to like cellophane this star moment of the black goo and the white horse of this Christ moment on the mountain. Just know that it will be reverberating throughout time with all that you have known, and will continue to like be an expression towards giving life to the unknown, because it's like they had no like these simulacra, archetypal goo, shape-shifting, dream bending, light chiaroscuring Shatabishak Rahus. It's like I saw those monsters that was in Ice Age 2, and I saw like creatures that was on the Eternals movie, and I saw the eels from The Little Mermaid, Flotsam and Jetsam, and I saw the just various iterations of Medusa, Mary Shaw from that horror movie. It's almost like Child's Play. I'm forgetting it now, but it's like with a ventriloquist doll. And yeah, just even like where buikspraak in Afrikaans, like the diaphragm, the gut speak, or the like ventriloquy. So it's very much talking about the loculi and ventricle and just the liminal speak of the above and below, coming to that Hephaestion plate of the thoric, toric, tarot, toroidalness of above and below, and those waters mingling. It was giving that like primordial fresh water and primordial salt water, Abzu, Tiamat, Sumer, Mesopotami. Because I was literally like, because I mentioned I have a brook next to my house, like I was seeing them kind of like harvesting the nappies and like all the crap from the babies, and like literally like Hansel and Gretel through the women, like channeling through these double speaks and stuff, these snake speaks, these deep whispers, these pythonic, ruminous, farmer, aromatic, did they say it, did they not, 1984 type of mind-bending, mind-screwing Like I literally felt like there was new grooves and patterns and pathways being like carved into my brain and in my DNA and in my memory of all time. So the just the Atreides dueness of like how are you gonna like ride the sandworm when all the water dries up, and there's nothing left to like reflect you. Is it like, are you gonna go and copulate with the desert and just like oasis it with your semen? Like, are you gonna be a necromantic with the dead you have cast about you? Because it felt like I was like usurping the life from things known because I have seen them, I've painted the butterflies, I have um exercised the demon into like bending its shape and bending to my will, and then it was like, but we move with the will of legions of impressions and potentials that has been impregnated into these names. So get your understanding up to our level of unconsciousness, and then you might know what we are trying to reflect to you, because we are only simulacrally reflecting your own thought process, your own intention, your own um just entire imbibing of braiding a reality internally. And if you think like there's a disassociation between what is external and what cannot take shape based on like how your chimeric Purva Bhadrapada altar can fix thought Aquarius with the Dhanishta Shatabishak and the cusp of Pisces into that mutability. It was like that shadow, that darkness upon the face of the deep, Tohum, Tohum Vabohum, Tihom, Tiamat. Like it was that without form and void situation where it was like everything was that crystalline, water, matrixy. I can touch it this way, I can bend it that way. It's yeah, but it's not. It's my perception type of light. And it was like there was this type of dawning upon me of coming through that night of myself, because I was literally like walking between the shadow and the light, like hearing the Wi-Fi screwing with me, hearing the radio. It was like raining money for like NFT bets or rugby. Like there was a rugby game in South Africa that day also that was, I don't know who played, but it was, you know, a thing. So it was just like, it was like everybody didn't know that who they watch on the screens and stuff, it's like code for archetypes being betted on in like a current of seeing. Like how will they be seen in a currency, like all the different electromagnetic holographic expressions of that, where that simulacrum can like photonically carry itself into primordial minted condition, primum mobile, the dome that is unyet of the firmament because the ceiling hasn't been broken yet, the glass ceiling of the crystalline sea of the Neptune Cyclops within thee. So it's like everybody who has like gigabytes in their mind space to not be kind of like sludged up with the same old of the same old. Like it's like that inspiration would just break against them and they wouldn't get it, like the water striking the rock or something. But those who would get it would be like the rock, but be like the water burning in fire, very volcanic, very Hephaestian, because like you are then the trinket, you are this, whether you want to go with the analogy of like a battery or a source, like it was like I was the source, indistinguishable from everything else that I could elementally call upon to be like an expression of source.
is precisely what we do about overcoming it. In other words, the activity that we employ in overcoming it is the mess that we object to. Do you see that? And it's very important to realize that. Then if you do realize it, you raise the question, then what can I do? What can I do to transform the quaking mess into the state of mind of the true mystic? Well, if you are the quaking mess, there is obviously nothing you can do to transform yourself into the state of mind which you idealize as that of being the true mystic, the Christ, the saint, or whatever. So, you realize that everything is phony, that all your ideals are simply manifestations of the quaking mess, trying to get away from itself. And that you are put in the position of, it is absolutely necessary for me to be different from the way I am. But there's absolutely nothing I can do about it, because being the way I am, I cannot be different from that. Let's say this, but if we can put it in different ways. I know that I ought not to be selfish, and I would very much like to be an unselfish person. But the reason why I want to be an unselfish person is that I am very selfish and would far more love myself and respect myself if I were unselfish. Okay? I know that I ought to love God and whatever. And why do you want to love God? Well, because God is the biggest boss, and it's best to be on the side of the big battalion. That's really why I want to do it. In other words, because I'm looking for the safety of my own spiritual skin. So I think I ought to love God. Oh, sophisticated saints have known this. St. Paul understood it, St. Augustine understood it, Martin Luther understood it. They didn't know what the hell to do about it. But there was nothing to do about it. And yet something has to be done. Obviously. But you realize, when you really look into yourself, there's nothing you can do. And this, therefore, is our point of departure. That we here perhaps not, mutually realize there is nothing we can do to be anything else than what we are. To feel any other way than what we feel at this moment. And to be then this quaking mess which has the capacity for the horrors about what life can do to us. However, this isn't as much of a blind alley, a cul-de-sac, as it sounds. Because if you discover a blind alley, it tells you something. Watch the flow of water when it crosses over an area of land, and you will see that it puts out fingers. And some of them stop because they come into blind alleys. The water doesn't pursue that course. It simply rises. And then it finds a way it can go. But it never uses any effort. It only uses weight. takes the line of least resistance and eventually finds a course. Now we will do the same thing. Only we're ashamed of it. But we're going to do it anyhow. We think that when we come to a dead end, a blind alley, oh, I failed. Supposing the water, at each place where a finger of water stretches out over dry ground and doesn't go any further because the land is too high, the water would have said to itself, I failed. We would say it was neurotic water. Just wait, and it will find a way. Now, when you find, you see, that there's this predicament that I've been describing to you, that there's no way of transforming yourself to become this fearless, joyous, divine being as distinct from the quaking mass. When you say no way, this is not a gloomy announcement. It is a very, very important communication. Tell you something. Because like the land is telling the water, this isn't the way to go. There's another way. Try over here. So in the same way, life is telling you that's not the way to go. It's telling you, the message underlying this is you cannot transform yourself. Is giving you the message that the you that you imagine to be capable of transforming yourself doesn't exist. In other words, an ego, an I, separate from my emotions, my thoughts, my feelings, my experiences, who is supposed to be in control of them, cannot control them because it isn't there. And as soon as you understand that, things will be vastly improved. Now, we can go into this. What do you mean by the word I? We're going to make some experiments in this on some number of different levels. But in the ordinary way, what do you mean by the word I? I myself. Your personality, your ego. What is it? Well, first of all, obviously, it's your image of yourself. It's composed of what people have told you about yourself, who you are, how they've reacted to you, and given you an impression that that's the sort of person you are. It's all your education goes into this, the style of life you put on, and so forth. But it's an image, it's an idea, it's your thought about yourself, and I suppose yourself is in fact not this, but is, to begin with, your total physical organism, your psychological organism. And, beyond that, an organism doesn't exist as an isolated thing any more than a flower exists without a stalk, without roots, without earth. So in the same way, although we are not stalked on the ground, we are nevertheless inseparable from a huge social context of, well, to begin with, parents, siblings, people who work for us, everything. I mean, it's just impossible to cut ourselves off from a social environment, and also furthermore from a natural environment. We are that. There's no clear way of drawing the boundary between this organism and everything that surrounds it. And yet, the image of ourselves that we have does not include all those relationships. Our idea of personality of ourselves includes no information whatsoever about the hypothalamus, an organ of the brain, the pineal gland, really of the way we breathe, of how our blood circulates, of how we manage to form a sentence, how we manage to be conscious, how you open and close your hand. The information contained in your image of yourself contains nothing about all that. And therefore, obviously, it's an extremely inadequate image. But nonetheless, we do think that the image of self refers to something. Because we have the impression, very strongly indeed, that I exist. And this isn't just an idea. We think, my God, it's a feeling.
They found me.
It's really substantially there in the middle of it.
Did you know you can hear the ocean through these? Yeah.
And what is it?
Well, it works both ways. The ocean can hear you too.
What do you actually sense? Like, when you're sitting on the floor and you feel the floor is there and it's real and hard. Okay, what are you sitting on the floor? What do you have the sensation of? It's you here
That's your plan, not mine.
when you're not hitting
I don't want to marry some spoiled, rich
What is it?
Well, you can make all the storms you want, but I'm not coming back.
Well, in what part of your body do you feel your sound?
Not a myth, Daddy.
The real I.
You think your dad is doing this? I'll prove it to you.
We can explore this very deeply, but I'm going to give you a preliminary superficial eye.
Calm down.
The sensation which corresponds to the image of ourselves